And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the June 6, 2023 meeting of the Regional Parks and Trails Committee. And obviously, we're very happy to be conducting this meeting, as well as all the work that's before us on the traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. We've stewarded this land for a very long time, since time immemorial. We have a brief meeting today. Without further ado, we'll jump into it. We have the resolution status report for receipt. Thank you, Grant and Maureen. Thank you. Anybody has questions on the resolutions report? Trying to see online. Can I see everybody online or just? Oh yeah, they would raise their hand. Thank you. No, there being no question. All in favor? And that is passed. And for reports, we will have a presentation from staff on Regional Parks and Trails Strategic Plan, Project Award, and for receipt. Thank you very much. And over to James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to introduce Mark Harrison, our Manager of Parks, who will walk us through the staff report on the Project Award for the Strategic Plan project. Mark, over to you.
Thank you, James. Through the chair, so I am here to update the committee on the award of the strategic plan work for the Regional Park Service, and then to review the anticipated project schedule. So the notice of award was for the strategic planning work was awarded to Lanark in May, and that work has now begun. Lanark is a landscape architecture firm out of Nanaimo, and they have a really strong background in regional parks planning. So we're very lucky to have them on board and help us along through this project. So the contract, so we're all aware, was 82,000, just over 82,000. This does exceed our $75,000 budget that we had for strategic planning, but it's within the 135,000 that we have allocated for professional fees for this service. Some of that fees was to go towards general park and trail acquisition priorities, which we are going to try to capture within this strategic planning process as well. So I think we're well within our budget here as we kind of move forward. So this is obviously very small to see on the screen here, but this is the preliminary schedule that we're looking at in terms of the project. It is looking at approximately a 17-month project now. So we were looking at July of 2024, and now we're looking at about September of 2024, and that was largely some back and forth with the working group, the advisory committee, and the consultant to try to make sure that we are engaging stakeholders and the public at appropriate times. So the project schedule needed to kind of adjust that way and make sure that was going to work. Because obviously getting good information is more important than trying to get the project done within a certain time period. So the just along the top part, the timeline, those are all 2-week increments. So that we were able to kind of get the whole project here on one screen. Basically, I just want to kind of go through the phases of the project, and then I'll be happy to take questions if there are any. The first phase is basically analysis and gathering that initial input. So we'll be looking, doing all the background document review, which Lanark is currently engaged in, and then getting all our preliminary GIS layer mapping, which is also already has been started. And then a key kind of first piece there is reaching out to Comox First Nation and trying to assess how their interests and how they wish to be engaged with this project. So we have reached out to Chief and Council at Comox First Nation and have yet to hear back on that. So that has started, but that is all indicated in red to indicate that we're open to have them engage at any point in the process whenever they feel they're ready. And then part of the next step will be to start an engagement strategy to make it really clear on how we're going to kind of engage with the public and with stakeholders and with Comox First Nation. So that is it being developed right now as well through their consultant. And then the bulk of the last part of that phase one will be to reach out to the key stakeholders. That's largely conservation and environmental groups, and then as well as outdoor rec groups, and gather that feedback from them. And from that, we can kind of move into then phase two, which is kind of more into our kind of draft directions. And that will be starting with some drafting of the actual purpose and the goals, the strategies that we're trying to employ within this the plan. Those will then come to this committee for review and for input. Right now, that is scheduled for some part in late November. So I think our next RPTC meeting is currently scheduled in October. So we'll need to look at rebooking a time in late November or early December so that it coordinates with this work plan. After that, we will then go out to the public to review those draft strategies. That will be involve 5 public sessions and then 1 virtual session to make sure that those that can't attend those meetings or those that live on the island have an opportunity to also participate. From that, we'll have a draft strategy developed, and then that'll move us into phase 3, which is kind of finalizing the strategic plan. There we'll have another engagement feedback loop through the stakeholders. We'll have another meeting of this committee to review that strategy, and then we'll bring that back to the public for a kind of final inputs. And then from there, the consultant will kind of work to finalize the plan. And then finally, it'll get presented to each of the local governments participating within this group. So that's it. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thanks, staff. We'll go to Dr. Mori.
Great, thank you, Chair. As you outlined really clearly, I know it's been part of the discussion from the start of this. Comox First Nation involvement is crucial, and we know that obviously treaty is coming, and there may be some capacity built in for Comox First Nation at that point to be able to, engage more fully in many processes. But I guess in the meantime, do we have anything at all that can I guess help in that process? Because we know that, as I said, Comox First Nation does have limited capacity, and I think they are crucial to this process. And I'm just wondering if there's any grants or anything that might help in that regard, or if there's any experience with other processes with First Nations to help them out. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll go to, looks like James was going to speak, and then.
Thanks. So we've spoken with I've spoken with Jordan Templeman at Comox First Nation, and talked very briefly about park strategy, and it is incredibly important. So we do recognize we're going to have that conversation. And I think we really want to take the lead from Comox and understand how they want to be involved and how they want to participate, and what that means in terms of timing and priorities. And so we would look to their lead as we go through this and ensure that we're not taking steps too quickly.
Right. Perfect. That's sort of what I was after, that we're not just kind of barreling along with our process because they don't have the ability maybe to keep up with our timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe I can, actually, I see Vicky's hand is up. We'll go to Vicky first. Go ahead, Mayor Brandt.
Thank you. And thanks to Director Morin for those. That was also a concern of mine. And just is there a way we can support their engagement? But having said that. I'm also just looking at the schedule, and so our next meeting is in November. So there's a lot happening between now and then in terms of strategy and consultation. Are we included in any of that or anything? Or we just pass
So
it?
when you say are we included, you mean the commission members?
Yes.
Yes, okay, over to staff.
Yeah, thank you for that question. As it's built in right now, you know, the bulk of the work is there's just a lot of background kind of information that needs to be gathered and kind of put together. And that kind of makes up the bulk of our kind of phase one. And then the next part will be to actually reach out to kind of key stakeholders. So I think the way the timing works, the next logical time for the committee to meet would be in November, because then at that point we'll have actually gathered a bunch of that data and have a good background and be able to actually have a thorough discussion here with this committee.
Go ahead, Mayor Brown.
Okay, so is the TAC involved? Like, I'm not seeing the TAC involvement in, so it's just background gathering all summer?
No, through the chair, there's actually a project meeting, so it's 1.7 where we're looking at reviewing the preliminary analysis, and that's through the advisory committee. We'll be doing that work, and then as part of the engagement strategy, one of the stakeholder sessions will actually be for key local government staff. So there will be that invite for all local governments to participate at that stage at the key staff level.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
Thank you. I don't see other hands. I have a further on the engagement of Comox First Nation. So often we have projects like that. We have a 1-year timeline that's very optimistic, but is there a pause period? So should we not obtain feedback from Comox First Nation? I think what I'm hearing and underneath a couple of the questions is a little bit of discomfort. So I'm wondering if there's a pause place where we don't want to get ahead too far on starting to head towards any kind of strategy or anything like that. So has staff thought about that between now and November? Should we not obtain feedback or engagement?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's not something that I've put enough thought into at this stage. At this stage, I've just been working with the consultant to try to refine this work plan, and kind of get us, you know, to where we're at here today. But those are definitely a conversation that I will bring forward to the consultant, and make sure that there is that ability to pause where needed. So that's something I will review.
Thank you very much. Are there further questions on the timeline or the bones of our work? I don't see any. Oh, Dr. Grieve, go ahead.
Not so fast, young feller. I have to say that I'm so absolutely overjoyed that we're embarking down this path. I think it's long overdue because our natural spaces are so important on all levels, not just recreation, but mental health. And to see us all working together finally and putting something comprehensive together in a regional way, I just have to say thank you to staff. And I think this is going to bring a lot of good information forward. So I'm totally in favor. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Grieve. And with that, I don't see any other questions. So, Director Brown, Mayor Brown.
All right. I just want to, I know we talked about this in our first meeting, but I just want to go back a little bit to how conservation groups are being engage during this? Are they in the preliminary engagement process as well? I just know there's some very large conservation pieces of land and some curiosity about whether those will be incorporated into this process in some way. So I'm wanting to get those conservation voices at an early stage, and wondering if they're part of the TAC or if they're being a stakeholder or what's their status.
Yeah, thank you. I might have staff to just review the membership of the full membership of the PAC briefly as you answer that question. So over to Mark.
Yeah, through the chair. So just so we're all clear on the advisory committee, it's basically made up of the parks managers from each of the local governments that are participating in this service. In terms of the conservation group, so that will be one of the key stakeholder sessions that would happen as part of 1.8 in the first phase. So basically there will be 3 stakeholder sessions. One session will be with conservation groups and environmental groups. So I am working with Tim Ennis at the CBLT to figure out a best way to approach that, and it could be through the partnership, the conservation partnership that already exists, which kind of embodies a lot of those conservation groups. And then the second one will be for outdoor recreation groups to be able to provide their input. And then the third stakeholder session, as I said, would be for key local government staff.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. I'm giving a pause because I think that's it for questions for today. So I want to thank staff. Vote on receipt. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. And before we terminate, I just want to again welcome Lenart Consulting, which I see is from Nanaimo. Perhaps we'll get to be introduced to them in the November meeting, and we're glad to have a team on board to assist our staff. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to terminate. Grant and McCollum, thank you all in favor. Great. Enjoy your afternoon, everyone.